Welcome to Pack Talk Podcast, episode 162. In the last episode that I did, we talked about our 12-step training progression. If you haven't listened to that podcast, we are going to be referencing our 12-step training progression today because I've got all of the Canine Revolution dog training trainers. I've got Chris, the lead trainer, Danny, and Jacy, professional dog trainers. They're going to tell stories about some of the crazy dogs they've trained in their time as a dog trainer. And if you're listening to these stories and you're maybe hearing them talk about your own dog, you might need to give us a call, right? You can schedule a discovery call with us or go to our YouTube channel and learn more about our progression and how to help your dog. But with that being said, Chris, our lead trainer, I accidentally forgot your Skittles today.
What?
And I usually
I can't function without
have Skittles for you.
Can't operate in these conditions.
I'll have to catch up with you on the Skittles later. If you're a listener, you know that Chris loves his Skittles, and
I've got donuts for you, Chris.
Well, thing about the donuts, I just did. We just recorded the snake aversion training debrief video, and I did talk about the guy that was there that did the donut eating contest with Chris. You know what I'm talking about with the GSP.
No.
Him and Chris did the donut eating contest.
I think that's a made-up story. I think the guy ate a donut, and I ate a donut.
And you guys had a donut eating contest, so that's what happened.
Oh, boy.
So today we're telling some stories about real dogs. These are not fictional. Right, Danny? They're not fictional stories. So
Why'd
Chris,
you say right, Danny?
Because you said they were fictional earlier. All right, Chris, let's start off with you with your story.
All right. So this dog that I trained was the only dog up to date that I've actually feared for my own safety. An extremely dominant dog, arguably the largest and most powerful dog that I've ever handled. I've had, we could say, Great Dane is larger, but this dog was just thick,
big, powerful,
Built like a
strong,
boulder.
easily 120, easily,
at least 150,
possibly more.
At least 150.
Powerful, explosive, stamina, you name it.
So
right?
when you say that this dog is did you say the only dog that you've ever really feared?
Yes.
What does that mean What does that mean?
I mean, so like none of us want to get bit by dog. Half of what we do is behavior modification. None of us really want to get bit, and we have systems in place to try to prevent that. But we've all been bit. Everybody at this table has been bit multiple times. That's part of the job.
Got my favorite shirt torn.
Yeah, and so you kind of just get I'm not going to say desensitized to it, but you understand it's a part of the job. You don't like it, it happens, and so there's always a little healthy fear, right. Of getting bit or attacked by a dog or whatever. But this dog was, there were many times where I was just alone with this dog. This dog with raw power, and I was bit by this dog in our training progression, and it was the worst, most damaging dog bite I've ever had. It bled for like 48 hours, couldn't get it to stop bleeding. It was excruciatingly painful.
Well, I will say, right before you got bit, I think I told you something.
Yeah, you did. Well, there was some ego stuff, like, you got to check the ego for sure.
I think I said, let me help you, and you said, I got it.
Right. Yeah. I had some ego. I won't deny that, So, when we talk about systems in place, that would be where those systems come from. Don't be afraid to have somebody help you out.
Right.
But just just a powerful dog that could really, if he really wanted to do damage, he could, and he knew that, right? And there's
potentially lethal damage.
Yes. Yeah. Like, if this dog got your neck or some type of artery or something, just from the sheer bite pressure alone, I think this dog could kill a person, 100%. Right. And I think I knew that. I think he knew that. And that brings a whole nother level of fear, So when I say I truly feared this dog, we still pushed forward, and we still got it. We still got the training done. But there were definite times of, I don't know how this is going to go. There were definitely times at night, it's dark outside, I was alone with this dog. There were times I had to utilize a catch pole with this dog. And there were times where he had the advantage, even with the catch pole. I remember I had him on the catch pole, and I had my my feet grounded on the ground, and he literally came at me and pushed me back like I was sliding on the ground.
Because you had him on the catch pole. He's in the catch pole.
He's in the catch pole, so he can't get
Right.
to me unless I let go of that catch pole.
Right.
But just his sheer force and power pushed me back as I was stationary without my legs moving.
Right.
And so my legs were still stationary. So, yeah, talking about a very powerful dog. And so there's no, like, obviously with dogs, there's a lot of things you can do with the leash to help mitigate a dog getting you. But this is the type of dog that if he wants you, he's got your number. You know what I mean? And so that brings a whole nother level to it. This dog had been blacklisted from other dog care facilities just for similar issues. Just dominant. He started to develop issues with reactivity, issues in the home. Nothing crazy, nothing super wild in the home, but just things like would kind of like bully people when they would come visit over. A good example, when I went to go pick him up, he ripped my bait bag off of my belt. He didn't just straight up come and attack me, right? So like he's also a confident dog. So he's not like just all the time aggression. He came, he found my bait bag in like 0.5 seconds and said, "I want that." And he chomped down on it. It's on my, if you don't know what a bait bag is, that's where we keep our treats. It goes on our belt. He chomps down on it, and when I went to go take it from him, he grabbed my shirt, and so I had to go back to my shirt. He went back to my bait bag, right? And so yeah, like he just wanted what he wanted, and
it's not uncommon for us when we go to pick up a dog for the dog to find our bait bag and muzzle it or nibble at it.
But this dog is another level.
This dog just straight up grabbed it,
and he was like, "This is mine now." You know what I mean?
He's been taught he can do what he wants.
Yeah, and and I saw that right off the rip. I saw, all right, we got a confident guy here, right? But we've had many dogs with dominance and that kind of stuff come through. So
did he have a bite history?
No bite history,
okay. We know of.
Other than the blacklisting from.
Oh, he did bite the other dog facilities that he was at. He did bite there.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So, but other than that, nothing. Like he would not, like, again, the problems of people coming over were just him bulldozing, kind of getting up in your space. I would assume if you have some treats, he's taking it, right?
Yeah.
So, talking about the failure point, when I was really thinking about it, I mean, there were a lot of things that we could deep dive into, and I've talked a lot with this family and everything, and there was a lot of positive reinforcement only used, which by itself I would say didn't really I think I saw videos of this dog as a puppy, and this dog was, locked and loaded, ready to go as an 8-week-old puppy. You know what I mean? And so I'm not going to sit here and say they overdid it on the positive reinforcement, but that was a factor. Like, he always just got rewarded. There was no accountability or anything like that. No discipline. So I think I would say in this case the biggest failure point would be structure, or a lack of structure, especially from early on. This dog's just living life, being allowed to do whatever it wants to do, and when it wants to do something, it gets its way, right? And whether it's just using its sheer muscle to push through barricades or push past people or grabbing things, it's just I want that, I'm going to take that,
right?
And he knows that he can do it, right? And he's using his size and power to be able to do that.
So thinking back on him, at least at this point in your story, if the owners had, obviously there's a genetic makeup with the dominance and the confidence, but if they had applied some structure or a higher level of, maybe they did like crate work or something, but if they had applied a higher level of structure when he was younger, do you think it would have hit this point to where it's at now, to where
no, I don't.
He was over the top, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I think it just fed his dominance.
Right.
So I think if there was structure, just basic levels of structure in the beginning, sure, yes. Like, it's hard to say. You can't say how these things are going to guarantee how they're all going to develop. But no, I think that was the, if I have had to look at everything big picture, the single biggest failure point was that, because I think that would have sort of had this dog in a better mindset,
right?
Of
being a follower versus a leader.
Exactly. Yeah. Still dominant.
Yeah.
It definitely, like, you ain't taking the dominance out, right? Like, he's a dominant dog.
Right.
That's who he is genetically. But the structure would have put him in a better mindset for sure.
Right.
So what we did, right? So, like, the training progression is obviously extremely important here. Engagement, right? Going to step 2 for building our engagement, building our focus. That's you've got to have that. You've got to have that with this type of dog. You've got to have the relationship building stuff. They've got to be able to give you focus, right? And so, like, that stuff all has to happen. The obedience has to happen. Your accountability has to happen. But this dog wasn't dumb either. He was extremely intelligent, and he moved very quickly through the training progression. So even with the training and progression in place, we would run into issues of, I don't want to do that. I understand that. I understand my expectation, right? I understand I may get accountability for not doing the expectation. Don't care. What are you going to do about it, right? So again, this is where that mindset is fostered. It has been fostered throughout his whole life of like, I'm going to challenge this, right? Because historically, I can challenge things and I'll get away with it, and people either back off, let me do my thing, or we're going to duke it out, and I'm going to win that, right? And so that became the thing. It wasn't really like, it wasn't the training progression that solved the problem. He did very well with the training progression. Now, what I will say is that the part of the training progression, the engagement specifically, gave us a bond. And so there were a lot of times where I think he made the right decision, or at least compromised. It felt like he was compromising, even when he did bite me. Like I know for a fact it could have been way worse. It could have ripped my arm off. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he was just communicating, I'm not going to do this thing, right? And the thing we were doing was going in the crate. That was one of the bigger issues. He didn't want to go in the crate. Or didn't want to do certain things, like, hey, I don't want to walk. I'm just gonna sit down. You're gonna move me if you want me to go anywhere, right? But the crate was a big issue, and so that became like when you're talking about structure, crate is kind of mandatory, especially with the way our current setup. There are other ways, like if you got like a run or something like that, but even then at that point you've got to get that dog into the run at some point. You got to get that dog out of the run at some point. So you do have to manage that dog's time. That's huge. So if we're gonna manipulate food drives, we're gonna manipulate social drives, you've got to have a crate. That's a huge piece of it. And now some will say, well, there's other ways of teaching the crate, right? And there were, and we did everything. So I did positive reinforcement, throw the food in the crate, he'd go in, and he would get that crate or get that treat so fast, and he'd be spinning out, right? And that's fine, no biggie. We can do that. We can do those reps, and we put in the time, and hours. I was spent hours. I'd walk this dog, get him tired, play some food games, bring him back out, and then we go back to do it with no treats. Ain't happening, right? So he kind of played the game, and then after a while, he's like, "This is crate games, got it." Like the end goal here is to get me in that crate, and I don't want to go in that crate, right? And so at the end of the day, it had to become a thing of like, this dog has got to go in this crate. This dog needs to be safe. We need to be safe, and so we did develop a system where it was a 2-man job, where we fed basically a leash through the back of the crate. I would hook that dog up on the leash because he was fine with that. And essentially, I could then put leash pressure on that dog, and if he went to turn at me, which he did several times, the person on the back end would essentially pull him through, right? And through a number of repetitions of that, he realized, yeah, I'm going in the crate. And we did get to a point where I could put him in the crate a majority of the time. And we're talking about like his training program was about 4 weeks, right? So I do know like if I had more time, that would have been even more successful for sure. So the structure was a huge thing, being able to manage his time throughout that progression while we were working on all of the other things like the dog reactivity or reactivity towards people or whatever, all that kind of stuff. We had to have a way to manage him, and so that was the biggest challenge for this dog, but we got it done nonetheless.
Even though the crate was his main issue, when you got through the training progression, when you started going on walks or whatever, was the reactivity essentially zero? Or was it still there? Or was he responsive to the corrections?
Yeah, so there were
reactivity?
So like it would depend. Like so, this was a dog that could also eat corrections, right? So like it would just depend. You had to again. This is I would still loop this a little bit in your structure because you're doing like when you're talking about distraction with dogs. Let's take that for example. Like threshold work was a huge piece of the equation here, right? We couldn't just go right up into the mix because you can walk him through the progression. And he understood what his expectations were. He understood accountability, but this dog just physically, like number one, you're not going to physically correct this dog. It's just not going to. I don't care. Like I don't care who you are. This dog can eat the corrections, especially in high arousal. So we're not, like a little leash pop or whatever. It's just not going to do anything. Even with conditioning to the e-collar, proper conditioning to the e-collar, we had the highest output e-collar, and he could eat that if he wanted to. Up to maxing that thing out, right? And so, and like we're not talking about even sending like the, where you correct him and he gets more aggressive. He just literally will just sit there. Like you can sit there, put it at, max that thing out all the way up, and it's like he's unfazed by it, right? And so it became a relationship thing. So like what I started to find, the more I did this, I worked my thresholds. I would start to work him at a greater threshold, so I would keep him out of these high states of arousal and then build up my engagement, right? So now we're talking about my training progression, and I'm moving closer and closer. And so what I did find over time is that it wasn't really about the level of the correction. It was about who the correction was coming from, right? And so as I would give the correction, he would respect that correction and come and return back to me. And the levels didn't really matter that much, or the amount of force that you're using on a correction didn't matter so much. It was just a relationship thing, and that typically is what it ends up being with these dominant dogs. Is like, you have to form a relationship with them of trust and respect. Like, you are going, no matter what, you are going to do the things that I'm asking you to do, right? And the things I'm going to ask you to do are going to be very fair across the board, but you got to do them, right? And you have to, like with a dog like this, that can become challenging because, again, I had to use our team to be able to accomplish that mission, because it was just unsafe for me to do by myself, right? But yes, it did get to the point where he responded appropriately to the corrections, but it was not because it was because he chose to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Holy shit. So what I'm hearing you say is, at the end of the day, the most important thing is engagement and relationship building.
Yeah.
The most important thing.
For sure. And that takes time. So like that,
right.
with these types of dogs, especially we're talking about a dominant dog that's several years old, is you may not get engagement day one. You probably won't, right? Or even if you do, it's a level of engagement that they're like, I'm getting food.
Right.
I'm enjoying this game when it suits me. Right. But things can definitely change. And so you have to figure out, well, what do I do with this dog while I am building this relationship? Because if you're trying to do this at home, for an example, and I'm trying to do my engagement games, but then for 10 hours of the day, this dog is just, again, going back to doing whatever it wants, whenever it wants, bullying people, grabbing things off the counter, stealing trainers' bait bags off their belt. It doesn't really address this issue, because this dog always knows. At the end of the day, I have my 150 pounds that I can just sling around and nobody can do nothing about. Yeah.
And if you're listening to this at home and you're thinking, well, my dog won't go in the crate either. Your dog is not this dog, most likely. This is like point. This is like the 1 in a million dog that is gonna fight you to the death.
And we're not talking just like, hey, I'm just gonna plop my 150 pounds down and make you drag me. He's like, no, go ahead and put any slight leash pressure on that thing and try to put me in there. And it's gonna be a fight. Like I'm coming at you with everything I got. You know?
Exactly.
For so long, he learned that it worked.
Yeah.
Crazy story, crazy dog. But
by the end, owners would say, "Poof, kennel up, boom, he's going right in there, good to go." So.
And that is the cool thing about an owner that has a pre-existing relationship. When you take their pre-existing relationship, take the work that you did, combine it together, get them on the structure, it's different.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's different.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to this at home and you're having a question, or you feel like this might be similar to your dog, you can always drop us a comment on YouTube, and we do read those comments. We'll try to respond to them. But in the meantime, Danny, you got a story about a dog that you trained.
I do.
Tell us about your dog that you trained.
So the dog that I'm going to be talking about, roughly, I know Chris didn't talk about any breeds or anything like that, but the dog that I'm talking about, roughly 90 pounds of German Shepherd, responsible for multiple ER visits, and the trainer who had worked with him before us had told the family that the most responsible move was euthanasia. That was their best case scenario, right? Either that or try us, right? So they come to us next, right?
Oh, so I was going to ask, like, why did the family not choose euthanasia? But the trainer said,
they said to
you
go,
either have to talk to Canine Revolution
or put the dog down.
You put the dog down. That's what they told me.
So
Okay.
I was very fresh into training dogs. This is probably like my 5th or 6th dog I ever trained. So I was a fresh apprentice under lead trainer Chris's guidance here.
You brought him Skittles?
When I did. I had to bribe him to come with me. Right? But upon pickup, we had shoved a kennel into the back of my truck, which left some pre-existing scratches, right? But shoved the kennel in there, and we didn't even touch the dog upon pickup. We had the owner take the dog outside. The dog was freaking out, lunging, barking at us, just standing inside the house. We had already told the owner, put a leash on this dog. Don't not let this dog come up to us, because it caused major damage in the past. We had heard some stories that the trainer had passed along and things like that, right? So
the dog's reactive when you show up?
Reactive to people,
yeah.
primarily.
I mean,
really?
full
Like
on,
lunging,
ready to
barking,
go. Like,
yeah.
if they would have let go of the leash, we'd have been in trouble.
100%.
Oh, okay.
100%. And obviously not as powerful as the dog is what Chris is talking about, but could definitely cause some major damage.
Right.
So we have the owner take the dog out to my truck, put him in, left the leash on, so it made it very easy for us upon return to our facility here. So when we take him out, I'm very much in control, very much aware, but odd enough, we take him out and he has no interest in us, just invested in the environment, sniffing around, not a big deal, right?
When you guys put him in the crate in your truck, leaving the leash on him, what would you have done if he would have chewed through that leash?
Well, safest option is probably a catch pole. Honestly, I mean, it's if it was a smaller dog, I'd be reaching in there and grabbing him, but this is not a small dog. This is a dog that could cause major damage if it wanted to, for sure. So safest option for us as handlers would have probably been catch pole. Probably would have been our best bet, especially with a dog that we don't know very well, and we just know what type of damage it's capable of and what has done with the previous trainer. I know like some stories like with the previous trainer was that they couldn't even get a dog out of the kennel at one point. I think at one point they just told the owners to come pick up the dog or something like that. So struggles for sure with just simple things like getting the dog out of the kennel. Just dog didn't want to be interacted with, right?
Did you know that he wouldn't chew the leash, or is there a way that you can tell?
We didn't necessarily know. He wasn't a very anxious dog, so I don't think. I think we would have been able to tell, but it wasn't that type of dog where he was anxious about things. He was just very he was lunging and barking at us in the house. Once he got into my truck, he would lay down. He was calm. He was fine. So it wasn't really a concern at that time. He was, he didn't bark or anything at me.
The whole drive.
And
I think statistically, in my experience, that has been the case. It's like even these dogs that are willing to go dance with you there with that owner. You do have to think from the dog's perspective. They're being put into this car. They're like, what the hell is going on? So they're kind of in a stress state of
suppressed.
They're suppressed a little bit. And so statistically, that's how it works for me. I've never had one chew through the leash in my car.
So it wasn't a concern. Didn't happen. We got him here. He was relatively fine. The last trainer, wouldn't say was inexperienced, but was more of a pressure-based trainer. So kind of skipped engagement and kind of went towards more compulsion-based correction-style training. Forcing the dog to do things and things like that. And the dog, when that pressure was, applied to him, he had one tool in his toolbox that worked, and that was bite. And it's like, hey, when I bite this trainer, this pressure stops. You know what I mean? Now, some trainers might have fought through that and eventually gotten this dog to comply, maybe, but this trainer specifically wasn't in it.
So the dog had a bite history, a known bite history?
Bite history, had bit multiple family members, I believe.
Not just the trainer.
Not just the trainer. No, I'm not sure if it actually bit the trainer, but it definitely gave them some major problems.
Okay.
But again, that's because they skipped our first steps of our progression, which is engagement.
Well, they're not Canine
right?
Revolution,
They're not.
So,
But that, I will say, again, I was an apprentice, so like a lot of my guidance was from Chris, but a lot of the first 2 weeks was really just prioritizing engagement. I hand fed every single meal, like morning and night, every single meal, just to build that relationship and build that trust. Right, and that's what we felt was the best first step, and it's shown to be very beneficial. So we start with engagement for roughly 2 weeks or so. Didn't really introduce a ton of corrections. I will say, like when we did start to introduce accountability, it was like we were ready for some sort of some conflict, because we had known that had been a problem before with the previous trainer and getting the dog to do things, the dog not wanting to do so, and just like any uncomfortable situation the dog was put in with the trainer and with family members, the dog was even showing things just like growling, snarling at like the owners and stuff like that. So whenever the dog was put into any kind of adverse, uncomfortable situation, it had a history of fighting, of biting, right? So that's kind of what we were ready for when we did introduce accountability. But again, that came way deep into the progression. It was a lot of engagement, a lot of hand feeding until we introduced any of that.
How long was the dog with us for?
Only 4 weeks.
4 weeks. Yeah,
Could
it
have
took you 2
been
weeks to
longer,
do the engagement.
but half of the training was a lot of engagement. And the
Okay.
last 2 weeks we banged out a lot of obedience and stuff, and socialization,
Right.
of course.
Right.
So yeah, step 2 of our progression engagement, the biggest thing that we needed with a dog like this. A lot of our other steps didn't really matter until we felt that was in place, until we felt we had the dog's trust and focus, and felt that it was willing to interact with us. You know, by the time that we introduced any like full-on obedience or corrections, the dog was happy to see us. It was wanting to interact with us, which was a telltale sign that we're moving in the right direction, right? So once we move on to, once we move past engagement, we have to still, of course, introduce some sort of leash pressure, some sort of accountability. But we start with leash pressure, start with opposition reflex. So again, going back to what I said earlier, he had learned that if he's put under any uncomfortable pressure or uncomfortable situation, he learned that, he could get out of it by showing this behavior of fighting. And this dog wasn't necessarily a dominant dog. He didn't really want to take control of a situation like how Chris's dog was, Chris's story rather was talking about. He was more so like more insecure than dominant. More so like, hey, I'm uncomfortable, but this works. Biting works. I'm a big dog. I'm a powerful dog. I can cause damage. And he also had learned in the past, like, when I do this, it works. This thing gets away from me. This uncomfortable situation stops. So that was his most reliable tool, right?
It does come at a point with insecure dogs that as they age and they get into these scraps and it becomes successful for them, that's where, like, because a lot of say, hey, they're just coming from insecurity. It's a fear bite. It's not that big of a deal. It's like, it does, when you start talking about these big dogs that do this enough, they get, it's not that they're confident, but they're confident in the behavior.
They're comfortable.
Performing that action.
They're comfortable. They've learned it works X amount of times, right? So like our process of reintroducing leash pressure and desensitizing opposition reflex is just very steady pressure, not introducing a lot like hard corrections or jerks or pops of the leash very fast. It's slow pressure, showing the dog what we wanted to do instead of putting it into an adverse situation and giving it, letting it make its own decision. So we teach the dog that moving with the leash is what we want it to do. I think we I don't remember exactly, but I believe we introduced that during hand feeding. So like, hey, in order to unlock your food, move with the leash. It was a much more positive experience than what I would imagine he had gone through with the previous trainer. Right? So yeah, that's step 3, leash pressure.
So
Desensitize option.
when you guys finished the training here and you reintegrated with the owner, was there a challenge because of the history that the dog had at its house? Context does play a lot into dog behavior. You got the dog good to go. You did distraction training, you did socialization, you did engagement, dog's responding to you well. But you're taking that dog home now. Was there any challenges when you took it home, or was it a pretty smooth transition?
No major challenges. We prioritize like a lot of engagement with the owner, like showing them that this is what works with this dog, and this is what is going to help you build this dog's, gain this dog's trust rather in different environments, in uncomfortable situations. Because again, this dog has learned that when in uncomfortable situations, it can show this behavior and get that situation to stop. So instead of that, we taught the owner, like, hey, whenever he's uncomfortable, and just in general, practicing eye contact, practicing engagement with him is going to help build that his trust upon them to look to their guidance and follow their guidance and trust their guidance in these uncomfortable situations instead of him having to defend himself. Right. So no major challenges. I mean, I did follows with them at like public parks around kids and people, and like obviously we were very, very aware of our surroundings. It's not the type of dog that you want people running up to, obviously, right?
And that was a 2-person thing, right? Like we talked about using our team. Like that was a thing when we did that together. You were handling camber and I was body blocking, right? Like I didn't have a dog with me.
Went home, right?
And I was walking around making sure people aren't.
Before he went home, we walked. And in hindsight, probably not a risk we need to take, but we did walk this dog through a farmer's market.
It was good.
And it was fine. He was fine. He trusted my leadership, trusted my guidance, didn't deviate quite. He really didn't deviate at all, and just fully he had one job to do, one clear thing, one expectation to follow, and that really alleviated a lot.
And I'm 100%. He would have been good without me body
Yeah.
blocking, but this was one of those things.
Exactly.
It's like you
And
don't
then-
take risks with that kind
and
of
then
stuff.
in follow-ups, same thing. Now, like in follow-ups, I did first couple with you. I think by the end of it, I did one by myself, and that was when we like did it in public, and I'm with them. It's a couple, and I'm just, hey, like, main thing is not letting people run up to this dog. You know what I mean? He's not the type of dog to lunge and bark and freak out and bite somebody out of nowhere. But if he's put into an uncomfortable situation, probably not a safe circumstance.
So you're saying even after all the training you did, there's still an element of that dog.
There's still a risk. There's
still a
limitations
risk.
for a dog like this. You know what I mean? And this situation in particular, the family did want to have kids at some point, and we had very realistic conversations with them and be like, hey, he is very manageable. He very much trusts your guidance. He's very much understanding what's expected of him, but he's never going to be the type of dog that anyone should feel comfortable with a toddler walking around or crawling around around this dog.
What was the recommendation with the kid? What'd y'all tell him?
Pretty much zero contact. Either, like, if this kid's out having free roam privileges
Right.
as a kid doing what kids do, he's in the kennel. Like, there's no point in risking it. We did a lot of muzzle training as well, but regardless, even with a muzzle, this dog could cause damage. You know what I mean? To a child for sure.
Right.
So definitely the type of dog that he's trained. He definitely understands what's expected of him. Definitely an improvement in his peace of mind and in the owner's peace of mind, but had limitations when it comes to strangers or kids and things like that.
Well, and sometimes people don't understand. It's not all like I think we put too much on the dogs too, right? Like
Yes.
it's like, okay, when these kids get 2-3 years old, and I have a 3-year-old right now. You know what I mean? Like, they do things. They do things. You tell them to do something, they got some dominance. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna do what they want to do. But I mean, it's you turn your back for 5 seconds, and they're digging in the dog's ear or mouth or something, and it's just not worth the risk with a dog that has the capability to do major damage to a grown adult.
Right.
It's also not fair to put that dog into that situation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially if you, like you're saying, turn your back for 1 second and the kid's on top of that dog. You know what I mean? Like, it falls under the owner. They have a responsibility to not only manage their kid, but also acknowledge the type of dog that they have.
Right.
You know, I mean, I had a ton of conversations with owners like this. Be like, hey, yes, like, I understand this is your goal, but this is the process to get there. People are very goal oriented, but it's like you have to acknowledge the type of dog you have, and you have to acknowledge the steps needed to be taken until you're at that goal, until you're at that point. It's not going to be a quick process for a lot of these types of dogs.
What do you do if you're working with somebody and they maybe have an unrealistic goal with their dog?
I have a realistic conversation with them.
What
Primarily, I mean,
what is your process of
depends on the situation, but
what is your process of explaining to them the potential limitations of their dog, or their realistic realism of their goal?
Are you asking me?
Anybody?
I mean, for me, it's like I said, just being realistic with them and being like, hey, like, I understand, this is your goal. And like I said before, there's steps to be taken with this specific dog to get to that goal, but it's very much showing them, what's important and what's not important too. So, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, like, I understand you want your dog to be the most friendly dog that everyone can come up to, but he's uncomfortable, and he first needs to learn that he can trust you with these unfamiliar people around. You can't just put him into the situations and expect him to make the right decision, because he's probably not. He's probably, and this isn't this specific dog in general. I'm just talking about, a specific dog, or random dogs, random situations. But there's dogs that will not necessarily have these types of limitations, but will not respond well to being put into those uncomfortable situations, and they first need to go through a progression of engagement, of relationship building, of trust building, until you are able to lead these dogs in this situation. And throughout that process, you will build confidence, and your dog very well might be that dog that people can pet and he can be fine with that. But there's a lot of steps to get there. So that's typically how I'll explain it to someone.
Yeah.
I'd put it in that
I think
type of format.
I think a lot of it's education, right?
Yeah,
so like
definitely.
sometimes people want their dogs to be something that their dogs just aren't, and it's like. There's a lot of trainers that will stroke the owner's ego, right? Well, we got to just keep doing more work or keep doing it. Like, I think we have a responsibility to also be very realistic. Let's just take the kid thing for example. Could we get that dog good to go with a kid? Possibly.
Right.
But you also have to weigh the risks, right? Is there a potential that this kid is going to get killed. I mean, look at the news any given day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like kids get killed by dogs. It happens, right? So is it worth the risk? We have to be realistic, and so in part of that education, a lot of times I will educate dogs on owners on dogs' body language, things like that, and I can literally point it out live. Look at this body language. This is what your dog is experiencing right now. This is what they're feeling. Why would we want to put them in this situation? And then I will often use some type of example, like a real world example, something like, hey, you're it's like we don't go to the gym for 4 days and expect to have a six pack, right? Like we have to have realistic expectations. And so sometimes using some real world examples makes them kind of take a step back and go, that kind of makes sense, right? Like these things do take time,
Change your
just like
perspective.
anything else in life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Yeah, body language is huge, you know, I mean, and especially when I feel like a lot of times you point certain things like that out to people and be like, hey, your dog is uncomfortable in this certain situation. To make him more comfortable, more confident, these are steps need to be taken. So you need to, it's definitely education, but it's also giving them a game plan as to how to get there.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think if you don't give them that, then you're kind of, you know, like if you are stroking their ego, then it doesn't get them anywhere. You know what I mean? Because then you're being unrealistic to them. You
And
know
putting
what I
them
mean?
in danger or somebody else in danger,
Yeah,
potentially,
and it's
right?
unfair to the dog.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
if you give them a game plan and they're not compliant, they don't follow the plan, you won't get the results.
That's
or
on
potentially
them.
get
That's
the
on
results,
them, yeah.
right?
We teach them. It's up to them to do the work. It's up to them to put the reps in.
Right. Jacy, what do you got for us? You got a story today?
I got a story.
All right, tell us your story.
This dog, she was rescued. Before the owners rescued, she was scheduled for euthanasia. It was kennel stress. She was reactive to people, dogs, would redirect on the owners. She bit the owner a couple times.
What's the give or take weight size of the dog?
She was probably like
Big.
90, 100 pounds, something like that. She
Oh,
was a big
really?
girl. She was a big girl,
Big.
right? So, and I'm only 100 pounds. So, you know, this was a fun dog to work with. But yeah, no, she was a good dog overall, but she didn't know really what was expected of her. She had practice of doing these behaviors. They tried multiple different trainers, and they just really didn't have much success. They first started, you know, with a purely positive, which you can use that to teach behaviors all day, but they were rewarding this dog in a red zone. So now this dog is learning, oh, this behavior feels good. It gets the thing that makes me uncomfortable away, and I'm being rewarded for it at the same time.
Do you know how old the dog was when you trained it?
When I trained her, she was probably like 4 or 5. So they
You
had
know
her.
how old it was when they started
They
the...
rescued her about like 3.
Oh, okay.
So they had her for about a year or so
Oh,
before
okay,
this went on.
gotcha. And they had done all this training in the 1 year with the
Yes.
other trainers?
They spent
Okay.
thousands. We were their last resort, essentially.
Okay,
They spent
okay.
thousands on her. They were considering euthanasia again, and they were like, we want to give her one more try because they don't want to. The situation they rescued her from, according to the shelter anyway, was not a good
Were
situation.
these people, were they out of state?
Yes, they
If I
were. So
remember correctly.
they drove out of state, dropped her off. We did a 6-week program with her, so
Gotcha.
I was able to spend more time on like the really foundational skills that she needed that she just didn't understand.
So when they dropped her off to you, what was initially happening? Because, you know, Danny said he's got this dog in the crate. Chris had the situation with the crate. What was happening with you and this dog when you're first getting hands-on with this dog? As you know, did you go pick up the dog that you told the story about? You went to their house and picked it up?
Yep.
Yep.
That's which is what we normally do for people that are close to us. But you had someone drop off a dog to you at our 20-acre training campus here in Dorchester, right outside of Charleston. So the drop off, the owner is there.
Yes.
So what was kind of that experience?
Yep. So I made Chris hang out because I knew this dog was big. I didn't know how she was going to react.
Okay.
She was barking at me a little bit in the car, so I had the owner put on the fur saver. I taught the owner how to do it, put a fur saver, put a leather leash on her. Basically, I stepped away, let the owner do that so the dog kind of didn't really see me or try to lunge. She had a habit of just lunging out and trying to go after people. I didn't want to do that with a dog with no leash or anything on because you can't really defend yourself or protect yourself. You got a dog coming at you, you can't keep him away.
Right.
So owner puts the fur saver on, puts the leash on, then she shuts the door, leaves the leash handle hanging outside the car. Basically what I did was I had enough leash to kind of get it in grip, and I told her, hey, you're just going to open the door and I'm just going to start walking with her. So she came out, she was completely fine. She was actually more interested interested in the chickens. So now she's kind of looking around, and me and the owner had probably about a 20-minute conversation or so before I pulled her out. So I got all the details and stuff. We had the conversation, the realistic expectation that there's going to be work to do, especially with them being out of state. Like out of state, we have to have a game plan, and you have to put the work in, because I can't meet up with you for in-person follow-ups when you're, 12 hours away from me, right? So take the dog, start walking her, down a little bit towards the end of the driveway. And now, if I remember correctly, coming back, she did try to go for a chicken, and I just basically brakes, right?
Yeah.
Like, she's my size, I'm my size, so we're legs.
Same weight.
We're same weight. I'm just legs in the ground holding her, right? She surprisingly, though, didn't redirect. I was anticipating that. Now, how she redirect, I would have just had to, hold her away from me, try to keep her moving. I was keeping distance and things like that.
So that was going through your head. There's a potential this dog could get frustrated, turn around, and try to bite me.
Yes, because she had redirected on the owner a couple times. She did give her a good scar on the leg and then one on the arm as well. So I was definitely aware of that, paying attention, monitoring body language and distance and things like that. Of course, the chickens don't help because they see dogs and they associate them with food, so they're coming right up to us, right? So get her through potty loop,
That's
stuff like that.
because you guys feed them.
Dogs
You guys,
drop
I'm
food.
looking.
Dogs drop
You
food.
feed them.
Dogs drop food.
But yeah, got her in. She gave me actually 0 issues going into the kennel. She was super good about it. They did a lot of crate work with her because at home she couldn't be left out. So she spent a majority of her time in the kennel anyway because they had other dogs.
So where were the issues? What issues were you having?
Really, her drop off was great.
I'm talking about as your drop off went good. You got her in the crate. You're not about to die like Chris. You're not getting bit like Danny.
I get bit.
I didn't
almost
the
get bit
potential
either.
for that. So, what kind of issues were you seeing show up as you started actually training over the next couple of weeks?
a lot of it was anxiety. She was very anxious, and you could see, now she was confident in practicing these behaviors. She'd see a chicken or she'd see another dog, and that tail, right up. She, ready to lunge. We had a couple dogs that if they even walked by close to her crate, just freaking out going at the door. So we did have to use a little bit of a barrier as dogs would walk by, just so she wasn't practicing, right? There was a lot of management there in the beginning, but I had the upper hand of her being so food motivated that the second I started doing engagement with her, which was the first thing that I did, she took to it right away. So I did have to do some space and stuff like that. So I'd bring her out, if she was in the potty loop, if I'm in the potty loop with her, I'm, on the other side if we have assistants or other people out there. I'm not letting her be in that close range. So a lot of management definitely of the dogs and stuff like that, because if she saw their dog, she was ready to go. And then us obviously having 20 acres was helpful. I was able to, get her away from everything to just teach her, hey, focus on me, right? Fun things happen here. Using that would then in turn help me get her working around the other dogs around the property and working addressing the chickens and stuff like that. She had a high prey drive, so that played a part in it.
Well, since she's been through other training before, I don't know if any other trainers used e-collars, but when you got to e-collar conditioning, was that smooth? Was there some kind of history there with that?
There was some hiccups, so that was part of the issues. As I mentioned, they did do other training with her. So after the purely positive, they went to more of a compulsion style trainer. And basically, the second she saw a dog and even looked at it, it was an e-collar and prong correction at the same time. So it was very high level, and she didn't really know what to do or what was expected, and it almost caused more frustration. So when I started introducing the e-collar, there was a little bit of hesitation, and I could see she kind of would get uncomfortable. So we did a lot of just positive reinforcement with the e-collar, right? Lowest level stim she could feel, which I don't remember what her baseline was, but she actually felt it very, very low. Now it also probably didn't help. The e-collar they were using was a very cheap quality brand. So I felt it when the owner was here, and the level 5 on that was a level 60 on one of our units.
Yeah.
So she felt it very, very low. And I just basically taught her, after I already had engagement, she already was taught the expectations. I taught her how to follow the leash, because that was another key part to it. She'd feel that tension on that leash just even from her lunging herself, and it just made her more explosive. So I taught her basically the low levels, use my positive reinforcement, getting her, we start with a recall for our conditioning, right? So low level, she'd come to me, we go into the engagement, especially because she loved it. I did so many reps of that, it very quickly turned that, this isn't, a bad thing I need to escalate. This is how, and teaching her how to respond to it helped her settle. So after doing that, it took me, a couple days of just doing that before even going into any application work with the remote collar. And she responded to it very well after that. And then we were able to use it in different environments, work some threshold, get
Now,
her.
since the owner was, hours away, 12 hours or whatever away, tell me about the transition back home. Were you getting reports from them after you started working with them and they went back home? How did that kind of turn out?
Yep. So they actually they stayed overnight here. So they came. They did a return session here at our property, and they spent
overnight in the woods right there.
Really? They had a little camp out?
No, they did stay down the street though. They stayed probably like 10-15 minutes down the road. But they came here. They got a pet-friendly Airbnb, so they didn't bring any of the other dogs or anything like that. It was just the mom and her daughter. We spent probably about an hour or two working out here. It was during one of our shifts, so I was able to get them practice, because one of the things they had mentioned to me was when they did the other board and train with the other trainer in their state, they couldn't even still walk her down the street with another dog. Like if another dog was across the street, she'd lose her mind, start trying to, react to the dog, redirect on them. So what I had them do here was some engagement work. And then we had some assistants just walk back and forth on the driveway. And I had them, in our training field. So they're walking parallel. And I was able to get them to a pretty close distance. Now I kept safety and things like that in mind, because as you mentioned earlier, context is a thing, right? So like she had a lot of practice of doing this with the owners. So we just did reps here of, walking back and forth with other dogs. She'd look at the dog, she'd look at them, they'd go into a reward event. We did a lot of yes with her just because of that prey drive was so crazy. She loved some yes engagement.
Yeah.
And then also taught them some downstay stuff. Now, after that return, we spent about 2 hours here. They took her back to the Airbnb, and they introduced structure right away. So structure was also a key component, so she wasn't reacting at other dogs in that neighborhood or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then we actually they met me the next day in downtown Somerville. Now, this was poor planning on my part. I wanted to start them at a lower level distraction. There was an event going on in that Somerville, and I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention, so... Yep, it was. I texted him. I was like, hey, guys, so that area's closed. Meet me over here. We're going to work her through it. She did great, though. She was definitely anxious and nervous at first, right? There was a lot of, focusing on other things, but we hung out to the side, did some engagement work, and then as we walked her on the outskirts, we ended up walking her. There was another event and then the farmer's market, and we ended up taking her through the farmer's market, and she did great. Nice. She had a little, perk up, but they very easy low level no. Mm-hmm. She immediate focused back on them and did great the rest of the time we were there. So nice. After training, they took her back to their state, and then I think it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks later, they texted me. They were able to have a utility person come in the house, and she hung out on her place the whole time. She looked at them, looked at the owners, and went back to sleep. Nice. Then they sent me another video of her at the vet's office, awake, not fully sedated. That was a big issue they had. Anytime she had to go to the vet, complete sedation. And they were, doing engagement with her. She's focusing on them while the vet's touching her, checking her out. And now we did do a lot of muzzle work, right? There's safety in that. But she was doing great there, and I haven't heard from them recently, but as far as I know, she's been doing great. So. Good.
I can think of countless dogs that we've trained, one team, one standard. We've trained countless dogs. And at the end of the day, it always comes back to the relationship, the engagement. At least that's my perspective.
Yep. 100%. I think corrections are I think they're very easy for people to do. I think it's something that people assume they need, and a lot of times a lot of dogs need a lot less corrections that they're getting, and they need more engagement, more focus, just more motivation. And that's definitely helped with not only countless dogs that I've trained, my personal dog, and so yeah, it's definitely the most overlooked thing I think for a lot of trainers that are looking to get results fast, or all owners that are looking to get results fast. Like I said earlier, people are so goal oriented, and corrections, kind of make it can depending on the dog, can make it faster to get to that goal. Right. But it's not as beneficial as taking the reps to take a step back, practice more engagement, practice more hand feeding, whatever you need to do. But definitely.
But if you skip the, how some trainers want to get it done fast, right? Yeah. You skip the relationship and engagement, you start correcting. At the end of the day, that's not really fixing the problem. That's not really helping the dog. You're going to have more problems later.
Right.
Versus if you took the time, and I've called owners that I'm working with their dog, and I say, hey, I know, like I'll send them videos throughout the week. I'm like, I know it seems like I'm doing the same thing, and I am, but this dog needs this. This dog needs time, spending time with me, building a bond with me, building a relationship with me. And then, and only then, when the dog can't get enough of me, is it time to then progress and work on
and that could
obedience.
That can
take
take
a
time.
year.
It can
Depending
take
on
a
the
long
dog, could take
time.
a long
It
time.
can take
Well,
a long
I think
time.
that's the issue in
Until
just
you're
a
ready.
lot of training, because you have both sides of it. People move very quick to the corrections, but then you also have people that don't understand the timing in training itself. So then you see the purely positive side, and they're rewarding the dog for the behaviors that they're not trying, or they're trying to correct, because they don't understand where that timing is.
Right,
and that
exactly.
ends up making your issues harder to undo.
Well, I think too, a big frustration, at least on my part, is like owners sometimes don't understand our timelines, right?
Yep.
Like I get this a lot. This trainer will do this in 2 weeks, so they say. And like we just in Danny's case, we spent 2 weeks on just the engagement, just because it's that important. He I don't know if you caught it, but he says, yeah, the rest of the time we did some obedience. Like, the rest of it, that part is easy. Like once you have this relationship, it's not about, like with the dog I worked, it wasn't about the physical force of your correction. It was about the dogs getting corrected by you, a handler, a leader that they respect and they trust. And they're making the conscious decision. I'm getting corrected for a behavior. I'm going to choose to stop doing this behavior and do this other beneficial behavior, right? And to get a dog to think like that takes time. There's no shortcuts, right? And these two cases, Danny's case and my case, were a little bit older, right? Where these were both 4-week programs, and we like these days we push.
That was before we had really changed our program to be 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because we're trying, like we do try to accommodate the fact that it's like people are like, that's a long time, and I do get that. I truly understand that it's hard to be away from your dog, but like these days with these types of cases, like that's 6 weeks is still not a lot.
For certain dogs
It really
that's not.
shouldn't be. I mean, like the way we do it is beneficial, but in the grand scheme of things, there really shouldn't even be a time limit.
Right. In a perfect world.
It's like, hey, this is the minimum amount of time I need, and I'm
No
probably
time
going to
limit,
extend.
no budget. We're
a lot
good.
of what I
But we live in a real world. We also have to have realistic expectations, right?
Right.
And so, like, what we have found is that 6 week is a really good balance.
for
It's a really good
90%
balance.
of dogs. You know, what I mean,
Yeah.
you will have outliers.
Yeah,
you know, what I
for
mean, like, I'm definitely very realistic with people too. That like because they'll ask me what their guarantee is. Like, can you guarantee where my dog will be in 6 weeks? I'll say I can guarantee that they will know X amount of expectations. They'll understand that be communicated to and things like that. But are they gonna never react to another dog again? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lifelong thing. You know what I mean?
The guarantee is also, can you follow the things we give you? If
Exactly.
you really, because the behavior change is going to happen at home. We can get the dog to do anything we want with us because we build the relationship.
Right.
If the owners don't keep that balance, that dog will very quickly go back to how it was if you can't maintain and be consistent.
Because it comes back to that structure. If we can't change the structure, right? Because like a lot of times the current structure that's been set up is a leading cause for some of these behaviors that have started, right? And so if we go even with training, right? It's not like taking your car to get its brakes fixed,
Yep.
right?
It doesn't come back
if
fixed.
it goes back into the same structure, you're going to get the same behaviors.
Right.
We say that all the time.
You don't graduate from training with your dog. You graduate to maintenance of training
Yes.
with your dog.
Right.
I'll get your dog as far as I can.
Welcome to the training lifestyle.
in
Yep.
this time, right?
And with that being said, if you guys want to work with us, you can go down to the link in the description below. You can book a discovery call with us. You can download our free 6-step training checklist where we take you through the steps we're talking about today, progressing from your dog knows nothing or your dog needs rehabilitation to you're in the maintenance phase with your dog. You can also grab our book down in the link in the description below. It's available on Amazon and all of our other affiliates, raw food, supplements for your dog, everything that's good for your dog down in the description below. Appreciate you guys being here. And until next time, this is Pack Talk Podcast. Out.